Hello everyone, and welcome to Behind the Bulletin. Today, we're diving into a story that has surprised fans and sparked endless curiosity. It started with one text. Wang Ziqi has finally opened up about how a single message marked the beginning of his unexpected romance with Wang Yuwen. From that very first text to emotions developing faster than anyone imagined. What really happened behind the scenes? Stay with us and let's uncover the full story, starting right now. It didn't begin with a grand confession or a flashy public moment. It began with something far more dangerous, something small, quiet, and easy to dismiss. One text. One message that could have been ignored, left unread. Swallowed by the endless noise of busy days and crowded inboxes. And yet, that single text became the first domino in a chain reaction no one saw coming. Wang Ziqi had been told 100 times that timing is everything, timing in acting. Timing in opportunities, timing in life, but timing in love? That's where even the most confident people hesitate. Because love doesn't just risk rejection. It risks exposure. It risks becoming a headline, a rumor, a weapon. And when you live under a spotlight, even a harmless high can feel like stepping onto a stage with no script and no exit. Still, he sent it. Not a dramatic paragraph. Not a carefully crafted speech. Just a line simple enough to seem casual, and bold enough to be unforgettable. The kind of message that hides its courage behind calm punctuation. The kind of message that says, without saying it, I'm here. I noticed you. I want to be in your world. The seconds after sending it were the longest. Because there's a particular remember it forever kind of silence that follows a risky text, especially when the other person isn't just anyone, but Wang Yuwen, composed, admired, and famously difficult to read. People could swear they knew her from interviews and scenes. But the real her? The real her lived behind an expression that gave nothing away unless she wanted it to. So when her reply finally arrived, it didn't explode like fireworks. It sliced. A short answer. Polite. Controlled. No obvious warmth. No clear invitation. Just enough to keep the door open, and just sharp. Enough to remind him he wasn't walking into an easy story. And that's what made it worse. Because easy doesn't haunt you. Uncertainty does. From there, the conversation didn't grow like a romantic montage. It grew like tension in a thriller, slow, tight, and charged with pauses. Ziqi didn't flutter with attention. That would have been too obvious. Desperate. Too loud. Instead, he did the more dangerous thing. He stayed consistent. One message became two. Two became a pattern. Not obsessive. Not overwhelming. Just present enough to become familiar. And familiarity is where the heart starts making mistakes. At first, it was harmless, shared jokes, small talk. The kind of words that pretend they're casual while quietly building a bridge. But then came the first shock, a moment when she unexpectedly laughed. Not a polite, I'm being nice kind of laugh. A real one. The kind that slips out before someone can stop it. That laugh changed the temperature. Because once you hear someone laugh like that, you want to hear it again. You start chasing it without admitting you're chasing it. Ziqi didn't call it chasing. He called it checking in. He told himself he was just being kind. Just being friendly, just being normal. But the truth was simpler and far more terrifying. He was falling. And he could feel it happening in real time. Then came the first meeting. Not announced. Not dramatic. Not a public spectacle. A quiet encounter that could be explained away as work-related. Coincidence, convenience. But the moment they were in the same space, something snapped into focus. Texting gives you imagination. Meeting gives you reality. And reality was worse, because the chemistry wasn't a rumor. It was a presence. It sat between them like a third person, daring them to acknowledge it. The air felt thick. Too many unspoken thoughts crowded the silence. Every glance seemed to last half a heartbeat too long. Every small movement, hand reaching for a cup, eyes flicking away, felt like it could be interpreted as a signal. Yuwen stayed calm. She always did. Calm doesn't mean unaffected. Ziqi noticed the smallest things, how her expression softened when she listened. How her eyes sharpened when she teased him. She didn't need to raise her voice to take control of a conversation. And he realized something that hit him like a punch. He wasn't trying to impress her anymore. He was trying not to reveal himself. If she saw how fast he was falling, what would she do? The next days became a strange balance of restraint and pressure. He didn't want to push. He didn't want to lose her. He didn't want to become another man who mistook closeness for permission. But he also couldn't go back to pretending she was just a casual contact on his phone. Then, the second shock hit, an unexpected message from her. Short. Simple. Free. 2 words that turned his entire body into adrenaline. Lied too fast. He knew he did. He hated that he did. But the truth is, when you want someone, you don't respond with logic. You respond with instinct. The meeting that followed wasn't like the first. It was quieter. More personal. Less coincidence, more choice. There were no cameras. No staff. No excuses. Just 2 people in a space where the world wasn't watching. And that was exactly what made it dangerous. Because without an audience, there was nothing to hide behind. And that's when Yuwen did something that made his heart drop. He looked at him, really looked at him, and asked, softly but directly, "Why did you text me that day?" The question wasn't playful. It wasn't teasing. It was a blade. Ziqi felt a moment split into 2 possible futures. One where he joked and escaped. One where he told the truth and stepped into fire. He chose fire. He didn't answer with a dramatic confession. He answered the way people do when they're trying to be brave without sounding foolish. "Because I wanted to," he said. Simple line. But it carried everything: curiosity, attraction, respect, risk. Yuwen didn't react the way the internet would imagine. Sudden blush. No cinematic gasp. She just watched him, quiet, unreadable. He were deciding whether his honesty was sincere or dangerous. The silence stretched. It became heavy enough to feel physical. He asked the question that turned the tension into a shockwave, "And what do you want now?" That was the moment Ziqi realized he wasn't just flirting anymore. He was standing on the edge of something that could change both their lives. And the fall wasn't guaranteed to be soft. He could have lied. He could have softened it into something safe. He could have protected himself with vague words. But he didn't. "I want you to trust me," he said. Trust. Not date me, not like me, trust me. The word landed differently. It made the moment feel less like a crush and more like a promise. Yuwen's gaze dropped for a second, just 1 second, but Ziqi caught it. The smallest flicker of emotion. Like a crack in a perfectly controlled surface. And when she looked back up, her voice was steady. But her eyes weren't as cold. "Trust is expensive," she said. "I know," he replied. And then came the turning point, the moment the story went from slow tension to sudden acceleration. Yuwen didn't say yes. She didn't say no. Instead, she stood up, walked past him, and paused just long enough that he could smell perfume and feel the heat of her presence. "Prove it," she said. 2 syllables that felt like a challenge and an invitation at the same time. After that, everything moved faster. Not in public. Not in obvious ways. In the private rhythm of 2 lives starting to overlap. Messages that arrived first thing in the morning. Calls that lasted longer than planned. Small updates that sounded casual but carried weight. The way he remembered details she never expected him to remember. The way she started replying faster, subtle, but telling. The way she stopped sounding polite and started sounding comfortable. Comfort is the most dangerous emotion. It makes you lower your guard without noticing. Then came another shock, jealousy. Not the loud, dramatic kind. Quiet kind that comes from realizing you care too much. A rumor popped up online, nothing confirmed. Just chatter linking Yuwen to someone else. He didn't confront her. He didn't act possessive. Instead, he went silent for a few hours. And the silence screamed louder than any accusation. Yuwen noticed. "How come you disappeared?" she asked, calm but sharp. Hesitated. If he admitted the truth, he risked sounding insecure. If he lied, he risked losing the trust he'd fought for. So he chose the most dangerous option again. "I didn't like what I saw," he said. A pause. "Because?" Yuwen asked. Ziqi's throat tightened. "Because I care." That was the first time the word care surfaced between. Like a confession that couldn't be taken back. The air changed after that. It didn't become sweet. It became serious. Because once you admit you care, every action has consequences. Yuwen didn't scold him. Didn't mock him. She only said, "Then don't let rumors control you." And in that sentence, Ziqi felt something shift. She wasn't pushing him away. She was teaching him how to stay. From there, the falling fast part wasn't about sudden romance. It was about the speed at which the stakes rose. The more they connected, the more risk gathered around them like thunderclouds. Every meeting had to be discreet. Every outing had to be careful. Every message carried the possibility of being exposed. Their closeness became something precious and fragile. Then came the biggest shock of all. Yuwen was the one who made the first unmistakably romantic move. Not a kiss in public. Not a confession on social media. A small act of quiet intimacy, her hand catching his sleeve when he turned to leave, holding him back for a breath longer than necessary. "Hey," she said. One word that erased all his doubt. That night, the world didn't change. No headlines dropped. No paparazzi flashed. No announcements were made. But Ziqi walked away with a truth in his chest that felt heavier than fame. She wanted him to stay in her life. Not as a passing conversation. As someone real. After that, winning her over wasn't about grand gestures. It was about endurance. It was about showing up consistently. Even when it was inconvenient. Even when it was risky. Even when it was easier to disappear. It was about choosing her over ego. Patience over pressure. Respect over urgency. And eventually, quietly, shockingly, Yuwen stopped testing him. Because she didn't need to anymore. The last twist wasn't dramatic. It was simple. It was the moment Ziqi realized he wasn't the only one who had fallen fast. She had fallen too. Not with fireworks. With footsteps. Small choices that added up until there was no denying the shape of it. All of it, every pause. Every tense silence. Every risky message, traced back to that first text. One decision that could have meant nothing, but instead became the start of everything. Because sometimes, love doesn't begin with fate. Sometimes it begins with courage. Typed out in a single line. And sent into the dark, hoping someone on the other side will answer. In the end, this story was never really about a single text. It was about the courage to take the first step. Knowing that everything could change because of it. What made Wang Ziqi's revelation so compelling was not grand romance or dramatic gestures. But the tension, patience, honesty that slowly built trust between two guarded hearts. From hesitation to connection. From uncertainty to quiet commitment. Their story unfolded not as a fairy tale, but as something far more real. Sometimes, the most shocking love stories are not loud or public. They happen in pauses. Difficult questions. In moments where truth is chosen over safety. And once the choice is made, there is no turning back, only moving forward, together. Faster than anyone expected. Thank you sincerely for staying with us until the very end of this emotional journey. We truly appreciate your time, your curiosity, support here at Behind the Bulletin. If this story touched you, kept you engaged, or made you reflect on the power of one small decision, don't forget to like, share, and follow us for more stories that reveal what happens beyond the headlines. Thank you for reading. Thank you for watching, and thank you for being part of our community.